All right, back to part two. I would recommend highly, very good advice, Deb. Is everybody back? Almost? Yeah, Deb is coming. Gave me a very good piece of advice. There's a couple of people here that actually do not read music, though I explain you can read it. Pair up with someone that reads music if you'd like to. So those of you that read music, please raise your hand. And who doesn't read music, then pair up with someone. There you go. So you're all paired up. Good. All right. Q&As. I didn't finish that when we broke for a quick break. So if anybody has a quick question just to follow up on this whole thing, please.
Why did the band tune to B flat?
Those are the B flat instruments.
Oh, so it has to do with the instrument. I was curious because violinists do the A and then the band.
The
does
oboe
A.
does the A.
Yeah.
It's the high, the most penetrating and the pitch that doesn't change. As with the violin, he can shift, trick you,
Right.
and not be in tune. So the first person in the orchestra is the oboe. And then the violin picks up, makes you in tune, and then he tunes his own people. Then the brass and the woodwind, they tune themselves. Yeah. Pardon me?
To the A. In an
To
orchestra.
the A, yeah.
In an orchestra.
In a band is slightly different because it's a band and most instruments are transposing instruments and all that. Yeah. So it gets a little technical. Yes, sir.
Is the oboe unable to tune their instrument? Is it a set?
They can tune it in micro tuning, but it's not like the violin where you have to create the pitch by finding it.
Okay.
That's micro tuning depending on how they move the piece. As a composer, we had to study the theory of instruments before you study orchestration, before you learn how to arrange for a band or for an orchestra. But when you study orchestration, theory of instruments, you're like an engineer. You know how the harp is made, you know the range it can play, you know the combination of sounds that it can play, because you can play for a trumpet like this, you can't, because the trumpet is a monophonic instrument. You can play only one note at a time. So you have to learn certain patterns that fit the hand. It gets very technical.
That's interesting.
Oh yeah, very
That's
interesting.
cool.
Yeah, it is cool, but it's engineering sound. So when you study at a high level as a composer or conductor, you have to learn each instrument, how it plays, what it can play, because you could be writing something on the piano and the poor guy said, no, I can't do this, it's impossible. So you have to know how to write for a trumpet, a cello, and so on and so on. Yes, sir.
In modern times, we could redesign all the instruments to C instruments. It's like, why don't we do that?
You can do anything you want to do, but we're focused here on a tonal system. Yeah, you can do anything you want to do. It's a free country, most of the time.
Do you encourage the use of hand signs with solfege?
Absolutely. And I'm glad, let me take this quick question, then we'll get back into exactly the hand signs. I like that.
My number one struggle is dedicated practice.
Good.
What do you recommend?
What do I recommend? To think about it and to continue practicing.
I deserve that.
No, but that's the only solution. Until you develop a joy for practicing, and I'll get back to, if I forget when I finish on the piano, I'm going to show you something. Remind me the hand signs, because I want to start the conversation with hand. So for example, you want to be able to do this, right? Alright, how do you get from so I sped this up, but you start with the first note. That's about 2 weeks later. You break the elephant. You take every piece. You got to teach yourself to be patient, which I'm not. But I know how to be patient on purpose. I know how to be nice to mommy on purpose. So I get that special. So doing things on purpose. My nature is to be discombobulated. and not paying attention, not too outgoing, kind of modest, shy. But I trained myself, in second nature, you become what you do. You do good things, you become good. You do bad things, you don't become good. You know, it's very simple. Life is very simple. It's wiring of the brain. So I decided for 15 years to be Mr. Mom, and I brainwash my kids in the best possible sense, because otherwise somebody else is gonna brainwash you. So
That's right.
yeah, that's how we are. We are brainwashed every day, whether we listen to a certain channel or this or that. So the question is, are you willing to take the time to practice? So to succeed, you need three things in anything for the young people. You need to want to do something. You want to succeed? That's step one. You want to do it. Good. Raise it to 100%. That's dedicated practice. Two, you need a great teacher. Find a great teacher that you get along with. Not just a teacher that doesn't have bedside manners and hits you on the hand with a stick or anything like that, right? So it's got to be a very nice teacher, but that knows how to be steel fist in a velvet glove. Okay? Steel fist in a velvet glove. And the third thing, you need a good method. If you can raise these three to a maximum, hypothetical, of 100%, then you become a superstar in whatever field you are. That's the key. That's what I learned. All right? Hard work, dedicated practice. Find a teacher that cares about you and knows what they're talking about. And then, hopefully, they use the right method to bring you to that high level of performance. Three things. So, let's get back to,
Hand signs.
what's your name, please?
Mariah.
Mariah. How do you spell that, please?
Moriah.
Uh-huh. Mariah, very nice name. There's a very famous Israeli conductor, it must be in the 70s now, the pianist originally, Mariah Perry or something, if I'm not mistaken. That's why when you said your name, I had a flashback to this very famous conductor. I think he was a conductor of the Los Angeles Philharmonic or something. We're talking about the 80s. Anyway, hand signs. Many years ago, an Englishman, Curvan, C-U-E-R-W-A-N, you can Wikipedia all this, developed a method to visualize the sounds. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do. Which is a wonderful method. Even I myself, I remember I was a little kid, 4 or 5 years old, when my beloved parents, a blessed name, took me to little private lessons. And I remember to this day the method that the wonderful lady, very nice lady. That's probably why I have a strong attachment to music, because my first teacher was very nice. You know, it's the first teacher. If they're nice, you're gonna wanna learn all your life. If they're kind of not nice, say, I hate learning, it's the experience that you have with a particular person. So, this is a wonderful method. In America, it's being taken to an extraordinary level where all choral singers in this country, in different of age, all the way to the famous Mormon, the Tabernacle, the Mormon choir, they all use the hand signal. It became kind of an American thing, as where the initial intention of Curvan and Zoltán Kodály, which is the actual Hungarian pronunciation, we pronounce it Kodály, which is okay. Zoltán Kodály took that idea to another level and introduced it for early music education. So in Europe and around the world, the hand signs are used as an introduction for young children that cannot read music. And it's just to help them visualize it as they understand up and down, directionality, and positioning. This means the strongest, or what we call in music the tonic, which is the center of the Do major scale, the solar system, the sun. That I use an analogy, and I told you there's 30 different systems, but they're all structured identically. It's just that the distance between is different. So, Do, Re is trying to get away from Do. Mi is already pulled away halfway between C, I'm sorry, with letters you like to do C. D is kind of taking off, pulling away from the attraction of the sun, of the Do, second note. E is already pulled away it's the third note. Fa is already far away, looking down because it's 4 steps up. Sol is kind of in the middle of the road, right, the 5th note. La is called a weak tone because it's the 6th note, which is all relative. It's not like this. just dropped the head. All right, so here's how I do it with the kids, and they love it. I created my own little lingo with the kids, because they all like Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
One second, please, would you like to share with us?
The relative minor is off the 6 we were discussing.
That's what he asked.
No. I'm sorry.
I'm disgusting, we were asking.
Sorry.
I'm delighted that you want to ask your new colleague.
Sorry.
And I always tell my students this, if you have something that's so important, why don't you share it with everybody? Especially when you're in a group. So
Sorry.
I'm using that as
And you
a,
said the 6th, and that was relative to me, or I just heard that from you.
good. We'll get back into that, don't worry
Sorry.
about it. Things
I'm
that
sorry.
you learn, Cindy, those are not consequential, because we're gonna repeat it so much that you're gonna dream it, sleep it, and recite it every day and every night. And once you know, you know, it's like poetry. So, what was I talking about? Star Wars. So this is what I tell the kids. You might like this, so save the conversation for later. Thank you. You can tell I work with the little kids. I love them.
Yeah, you do.
I never
Yeah.
work with the little kids in school. They're so innocent and so sincere. They say, Mr. David, you're old. How old are you? So I said, children, do not call me old. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. David. How old are you?
Don't look at me.
I'm 62. And I say, children, I'm not old. I'm very old. They all laugh. Mr. David is very old. And we move on. Yes. There's no more ego after a certain age, especially teachers, and we know that, especially with kids. So getting back to Star Wars, so I use things that they know, because you cannot build on total newness. Even in music, when you create music, there's repetition and contrast, right? You can, well, we have total contrast, which is tone music, right? But it has its own logic, which is more cerebral. It's not as emotional and kind of the way we consider music, melody, romantic, and things like that. But in music, just as in life, you need to build with things that are repetition, just like in any song, right? Back home. Shifting to another solar system. And all that. So, John Lennon. So, everything in music, like in life, is repetition and contrast. If you have only different things, it's chaotic. That's why children like structure, repetition, rituals. You wake up, you brush your teeth, you eat, you do this, you do that. So, everything in music is the way it is in real life. It mimics real life. That's why music is considered the only art that replicates life almost to a T. Tempo, duration, intensity, source, and things like that. But that's the subject of another workshop. So that's the thing with the hand signals. So what I tell the kids, in order to remember, because they go do, re, mi, fa, I say, do is the most powerful note. Everybody, do is the most powerful note. Do, he's the king of all the notes. Everybody listens to do. Except do, the queen. And then we say do is the king. Re is flying away. We teach the function of the note early on, because they'll remember it's pulling away from do, the second note, re, it's flying away, right? Flying away. Mi is already flying high in the sky. You repeat it with me. Mi is flying high in the sky. Fa is looking down from the satellite because it's far away. So says stop. You know, like stop. Stop. La is very tired. And because it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon, yeah. C is very hungry and wants to get food from Do, the queen. So they remember this.
Wow.
And then at the end of the day, I use the thing with Star Wars, may the force be with you. Right? John Williams, also a graduate of Juilliard. I met him we had a big to-do at the Beverly Hills Hotel a couple of weeks ago. He's up there now in his 80s, very good health. And he's also a Juilliard alumna. And now they're celebrating him and all that. So I tell the kids, may the force of do re mi be with you. So they salute me, Mr. David, in the Walmart, my social activity center. May the force be the do re mi, the force of do re mi be with you. I said, yeah, you learn this. So you got to teach with things that are playful for the kids. You know very well. You can't. The boring stuff is important, but you got to spice it up and get. Let's get back to our structure. So part one is basically every time you start. Oh, you want to learn this? Yeah. Do re flying away mi. Fa, sol, si, stop, la's very tired, si is almost going home to do. And that's how we teach the functionality of the notes. Because the whole introduction,
Isn't it
La.
T? You're saying C, but isn't it T?
T, it is. Oh, thank you, Deb. Thank you, Deb. Again, historical things that happen in life. There was you know where the do re mi comes from, right? There was an Italian monk. I'm sorry, from
I
where?
said Sound of Music.
So do re mi comes from an Italian monk, Guido d'Arezzo, from the city of Arezzo, which is close to what's up there on the
Sicily?
west? No, it's on the west coast, Genoa, all the way up on the west coast, Guido d'Arezzo. So around 1060 or something, they had a chant in Latin because that's the official language of the church and all that. So the words were ut quant laxis, relax my voice, resonare fibris, make my sounding board strong, fibris, mira gestorum, famuli tuorum.
Oh, interesting.
It is. Thank you. Family tuorum, solve polluti, labireatum, Sancte Johannes. So he took every syllable from the beginning of each line, ut quant laxis, re, resonare fibris, mira gestorum, famuli tuorum, solve polluti, sol, labireatum, and then Sancte Johannes. Now you're going to say, well, where's the do? Eventually, ut is a very tough syllable to pronounce. If you notice, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do, the genius of Italian bel canto, starts with a consonant, ends with a vowel. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, exception, L, la, si, si. Brits, ti, which is fine, perfectly acceptable. So, what they did a few hundred years later, they discussed this for a long time in the church. It takes a long time to do these things in church, approval and all that. Yeah, an edict by the Pope or something in 1500. Ut became D-O, do, from Dominus. And to this day, the French school of solfège sings with ut, because we are special, nous sommes français. So they will sing ut, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do, si, do, ut, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, ut, si, la, which is very difficult. Vowel first and consonant afterwards. But the French want to have their identity, like the Brits want to have their identity with T and all that. So, and then they only used 6 notes. It was only ut, re, mi, fa, sol, la. Modes. They didn't have tonality with 7 notes, harmonies. It was all polyphony, church. So when they added the 7th note, which is the leading note, they said we need a name for this note. Well, the whole song ends with Sancte Johannes. S, I, yo, s, I. That's where C comes from. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do. It's Sancte Johannes, Saint John. That was the protector of voice and all that. So do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do has its roots in. I gave you the quick brief story. You can Wikipedia this and all that. So, getting back to our work. So, the structure, let's not waste any more time. Let's go through the structure. And then we're going to sing immediately. Part 2, it was a little warm-up that you did to acclimate yourself with the 3 modes. I'm on page 3. I'm just reading the index, page 3. Page 3. So, part 3 is the part 2 is the warm-up with the major scale that you did before, just singing it in 3 modes. Harmonic, where we lower the keys, and all that is written in here. And then we're going to do part 3 and part 4 right now. And solmization, it's written right here. it basically means in plain English, combining the sounds when you sing them together. And we're gonna open up the page. What page is solmization? 11. Let's go to 11 and repeat after me. And you're gonna see how easy it is. Those of you that wanna try do, re, mi, that's fine. Those of you that like ABC, that's fine. Page 11. Wait a minute. That's not even. You're in a different section.
Oh, you go to the front of the book.
You have two books in here. Hold on. Open up. We don't want to go to the FAQs in the back. So put the book back in the beginning. It's page 11 in the first start. It's 11 in the beginning. Got it. Oh, it's 12. My bad. Page 12, folks. Thank you. Thank you. I have somebody that knows her numbers. Yeah, that's the theory. Sorry. So let's go to page 12 and repeat after me. This is exactly how you're gonna practice this, or you're gonna teach your students. Okay? And you're gonna adjust all this depending on the grade level and all this. You're not gonna go to 9th course, 7th course with 6th graders or 4th graders. You're gonna work with the early coming. You're gonna extract what you need. But for those of you that are music teachers and musicians, repeat after me. That's how a student should practice this. Because we're gonna discuss in the last part, class practice versus personal practice. The key is when you practice at home alone. Because with the teacher, everybody's gonna kind of sing along and kind of look out the window and we do it. But it's when you take this and you do it alone every day for 20 minutes that you're gonna have a killer year in 6 months or less. Okay? Yeah. So, this is what the students should say. Note 1 in the major scale, solmization. Listen. And now we listen. Now we sing. Do, re, do, mi, do, fa, do, sol, do, la, do, si, do, do. Listen, I'm going to do it faster so we don't have to waste time. Sing. Do, 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 si, do, la, do, sol, do, fa, do, mi, do, re, do, do. Listen. Note 3 in the major scale, solmization. That means you're combining all the notes, the other 6 notes, against the 3rd note. I'm on page 13. Sing. Mi, re, mi, do, mi, re, mi, fa, mi, sol, mi, la, mi, si, mi, do. Listen. Beautiful voices. Sing. Do, mi, si, mi, la, mi, sol, mi, fa, mi, re, mi, do. Now, the tempo can be adjusted to the student according to the teacher. Turn the page, please. Now we're doing it against the 5th note, bar number 37. Listen. Sing. Sol, fa, sol, mi, sol, re, sol, do, sol, re, sol, mi, sol, fa, sol, la, sol, si, sol, do. And listen to the last part. Sing. Do, sol, si, sol, la, sol, fa, sol, mi, sol, re, sol, do. Warm down. Listen. Sing. Do, mi, sol, do, sol, mi, do. We have more. Turn the page. Listen. Sing. Do, fa, la, do, la, fa, do. Listen. Listen. Yes. Sing. Re, fa, sol, si, si, sol, fa, re. Listen. Bar 78. Sing. Do, mi, sol, do, sol, mi, do. Listen. Sing. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do. Listen. Sing. Do, si, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. So you finish part 3. Continue turning to page 20. That's the next part that we're going to do now. Now this is the real meat and potatoes. So this was all warm up in the C major scale with the 7 notes to understand relationships, not only visually or structurally the theory, but orally you can hear already that each combination sounds a little different, right? They don't sound identical. Now you're gonna go into understanding each one of those combinations. Everything in this whole book is 7 notes in the C major scale. We're not using anything flat, sharp. So in every one of the other books, F major, G major, E minor, you're only using the 7 notes in that scale to study and master the tonal system in that scale. After you go through the 32 lessons, you already have a visual of the galaxy of the 30 solar systems, the scale, and then you can go on to the next level, which is modulation. How do you move from one solar system to another one, and why does it sound like this? Which one makes me happy? Oh, this is the romantic period, this is the classical period. All these cadences, the relationships between the chords are found in the distances and how we travel to all these tonalities. But now we have to master the intervals. Who knows what an interval is? Quick.
The distance between 2 notes.
Who said that? Okay, so again, categories. Someone from Mars comes in here, does a quick spectrum, just a bunch of things. Quickly, a human being knows, they come in this room and say, oh, I see chairs, I see a piano, I see this. So everything is broken down so we can assimilate it. You cannot remember 5,000 cities in America, right? But you can remember which are the biggest cities. New York, Miami, Los Angeles. Then which are the big cities on the West Coast? And you know, so you have categories. You break the country in 50 states. The same way in music, we now break the combination of these notes. Remember the 7 notes? Right? So all these notes can be combined. You learned that in math, combination of numbers, right? If I have 7 numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, how many ways can I combine them? 7, math, I need math here. 7 times, pardon me?
7 factorial.
Yeah,
That's 7 times 6 times 5 times 4.
but those I think are,
That's for unique combinations.
yes, that's per unique combination, thank you. But in reality, there's only 14 possible combinations with 7 notes. So you, with each note, so you have this one, 1,
That's called 2 at a time.
well, you can play melodically, one after the other, or harmonically. In music, you can do things only 1 or 2 ways. Together, harmonically, or melodically, one after the other. The voice cannot sing harmonically. You cannot sing with yourself 2 notes. But a piano, you can play more than 1 tune. That's called harmony. So music is either melodic, 1 at a time, or together, many notes together. So now we're gonna sing all the notes, the combination of notes that we have. We have 14 possible combinations. We're on page 20. The unison. Everybody knows the unison means the same thing, the same note, right? So let's look over here and read this. So you listen first. Now you sing. Do, do, do. Re, re, re. Let's get it up. Mi, 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 mi. Fa, fa, fa. Fa, 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 fa. Sol, sol, sol. Sol, sol, sol. La, la, la. Si, si, si. Si, si, si. So that was the boring part. Now we're going to take the intervals from the smallest one, which was the unison, when you have the same note played together, right? People say, but a unison is not an interval. It is an interval. It's called 0. When the 2 of you sing together the same note, the distance between those 2 notes is called a unison, because you're singing together. So in theory, it's considered a 0, because it's the same note played together. But that's described in the theory. By the way, every part, that's why I made a mistake with page 11. Every part has an introduction. Each one of the 7 parts has an introduction, which is the theory. You as teachers and or students, you need to read that introduction every time you go through the book, kind of like a mantra. And you should read it out loud. And then you ask questions. I don't understand this. But the theoretical part is the introduction to each one of these parts, which of course we don't have time to sit here for 2 hours and read every detail. But that's part of the learning, the theory, with learning how it feels on the piano or violin. You can use your own instrument to play the exercises, and then you sing with your voice. So the listening can be done with any instrument. Ideally with a piano, because it's easy for the fingers, you see it, but instrumentalists can use a flute or whatever they want to use. So, now, the next interval, in terms of size, is called a minor second. You'll see that written. And a student should say the minor second interval can only be found on steps 3 and 7 in the C major scale. What does that mean? Let me turn around. I hope everybody can see this. Can. So you have, this is the unison, the shortest one, 0, right? The next shortest one is, that's all you can find in C major. This is called the minor second. And it's the distance between, the closest distance between two sounds. One semitone, one semitone. Again, that's a little bit of music theory. The distance, the shortest distance between sounds in tonal music is a semitone. That's like a yardstick, so it's like the inch. We don't, in tonal music, you cannot get any closer than this. That's a semitone, semitone, or half step.
Half step, yes.
Right?
Yes.
But in C major, this semitone only occurs here. And that's why we teach students to name the step that it happens on. Because this way they're connecting the theory, the structural build of the C major scale with the actual interval where it happens. And these are necessary as you learn harmony, modulation, and the complex things that happen later. So understanding the structure of the C major scale together with ear training is what happens here. It's not just learning some notes, I remember and all this. It's understanding the theoretical thing in context of the exercise. So now we should go to page 22 and we say the minor second on step 3 in the major natural scale. And you would have the student repeat that, or you say, and you say mi, fa, fa, mi, fa, fa, mi. Then you listen. Then you say the minor second on step 7 in the major natural scale. Si, do, do, si. Si, do, do, si. The next interval that comes up is the minor second interval that can be found only on steps 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6.
Major.
What did I say, minor? Yeah. No, the major second interval on steps 2, because we're only in C major. Everything in this whole book is in C major. So it happens on steps 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6. And now we describe it. Listen. Sing. Do, re, do. The minor second on step 2. The major second on step 2. Excuse me. Re, mi, mi, re. Re, mi, mi, re. The major second on step 4. Fa, sol, sol, fa. Fa, sol, sol, fa. You got the idea. Turn the page. 24. Now the minor third occurs only on steps 2, 3, 6, and 7. And you listen.
That's the bottom of page 20.
Pardon me?
The bottom of page 20.
You're right. The bottom of page 23, that's where the minor third interval. Thank you. I did that on purpose. I want to see somebody's paying attention. No, I made a mistake. So you're on bar 36, bottom of page 23. So I would say the minor third interval occurs only on steps 2, 3, 6, and 7 of the C major scale. And you would see. Listen.